give a special thank you to everyone in the room, but in particular, I'd like to call out a couple individuals, namely the host committee. So host committee, as you know, from going on the website, you can purchase 4 tickets at one time. So you can either bring 3 of your friends, or you can make new friends. I encourage both, actually. You should buy multiple host committee tickets and do both. But you get a shout out, you get some goodies from your CBD oils and some other folks, depending on the month. And I'd like to thank Vladimir Bautista, Rich Weissman, Margit Bijou, Laura Trujillo, Alexander Alatriste, Jose Ramos, and Martin Hero. And if I pronounce any of your names wrong, I will give you free pizza at the after party across the street. I will actually give everyone free pizza at the after party across the street. But I will especially give it to those people whose names I mispronounced. If you weren't aware, you can actually become a member. We have a couple members in the audience. Mr. David Feldman, thank you, and a couple others. You can go to CannaGather.com/members, and it'll actually save you a lot of time, because instead of buying a ticket to each event, which I know that you're all going to do for the rest of the year, and the subsequent 6 months or so, you can actually just buy all 12 months with one click. It's actually a couple clicks, but it's like 3 clicks. It's $250 for the year. Go to CannaGather.com/members. And I'm actually interested to hear what would be a more compelling offering on top of what our offering of 12 tickets and a free t-shirt is. So if you are interested in becoming a member, but are like, I need a little bit more, let me know, because I think that's something that we should do some more on. So thank you to the host committee, thank you to the members. And thank you to our sponsors. You met many of them already up there. Thank you so much to all of them. You're going to meet them in a little bit. First off, I'd like to introduce Galvanize. So Galvanize has hosted us since last January because they are awesome. And Jacoby in particular has saved many a CannaGather from...
Thanks, Josh. Hello, everybody. My name is Jacoby Holland. Just to give you the quick rundown of what Galvanize is for those of you that don't know. We are a co-working space. So during the day, there's a bunch of white tables here, lots of startups. We also host events like these here. It's an honor to have you guys, and all of the ups and downs of leading up to an event, and then it always seems to sail smoothly. And then the last piece is we actually have our own tech immersive education platform. So we teach web development, data science. So we kind of put the whole ecosystem of entrepreneurship, tech entrepreneurship in one place. As an example, myself, I'm a cannabis technology entrepreneur. We also have offices in Denver and California. As you can imagine, those are pretty helpful for me. So if anybody's interested in getting involved with Galvanize, either as a student, want to host events, or want some of the co-working space, please contact me or anybody with a Galvanize shirt. We'll be happy to help you. Thanks.
Thank you, Jacoby. So Cole Schatz, legal team from Cole Schatz is here over there. Thank you so much, Tammy et al. So they didn't want to come up to speak tonight. They're a little too cool for that right now. They came up last time. They came up the time before. They're like, you know what? You just do it, Josh. It's okay. They just said say something nice, and it's pretty easy. They're partnering with us for the rest of the year. They've been partnering with us for a couple months now. We had a lovely lunch, chatted about all things cannabis and cannabis industry. Great team. So if you're looking for legal assistance, look no further. You've probably already spoken to them, but speak to him again. So thank you so much. Mr. Craig Zaffe, as always.
Thank you, Josh. And thank you for everybody for coming to CannaGatherers. It's the largest New York State cannabis networking group in America. All right, I'll try to talk louder. If you can't hear me, just tell me you can't hear me. My goal is to educate the world about the most beneficial plant on the planet, cannabis. There are over 25,000 uses to cannabis. Our country was founded on cannabis. I want to have educated consumers make educated decisions, and they'll have educated questions. We have CBDs for pets and for people. So if you get a chance, please go to Your CBD Oils, check out my website, and you become educated about the most beneficial plant on the planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, as always, Craig. Been supporting for quite some time. Thank you. BDS Analytics, if you're in the industry, then you know BDS Analytics. If you're not in the industry, BDS Analytics is sort of the leading provider of data. So as you can tell, there's sort of a variety of use cases depending on what your interest is in terms of the industry. But they have various reports, one of which you can actually get 20% off on using the code CannaGather. No, we do not get money if you use it. That's actually the first time that I've thought of that. No, it's just you get 20% off, so you're welcome. If you go to ArcView's website, arcviewgroup.com/research. So dispensaries, brands, if you're trying to figure out what the lay of the land is from a data standpoint, BDS is widely recognized as the industry leader. Tribe Tokes. Kim is back.
Hello, how's everybody doing? So, thank you. Yes, I'm doing awesome as well. So Tribe Tokes is an upscale luxury vaping lifestyle brand, and I'm sure you guys have seen the table. It's right up in front in the corner. We have a special going on. You get a CBD cart, 100% pure CBD distillate, nice and neat, and a little cartridge package, all pretty, just for you, as well as one of our signature batteries. We have the white stick, which is gorgeous, adjustable vape temperature, and then we also have our Saber. So that's $70. You're going to save $20. But guess what? That might not be enough for you, right? So I want to invite all of you to come into our showroom at Tribe Tokes in the Meatpacking District and enjoy a private shopping experience. We have so many luxury CBD brands and accessories for your countercultural lifestyle. So if you're interested in having a private shopping experience with me, Kim B, you can hit me up or go up and leave your information at the front. And one last thing, we are so excited, launching CB Dizzle, that we curate amazing CBD luxury collections for you. Easy, you go on, you see everything that you want there, you click a button, and we deliver it right to you. Tribe Tokes, guys.
Thank you, Kim. As I was saying, TJ, the well-dressed man, please enlighten us.
How's everyone? Very good. Nice. He's excited. Anybody else? No? Cool. Enlighten. Hopefully most of you had a chance to talk to me outside. I know some of you didn't. Enlighten is a digital enterprise solution, and basically that means we can create the retail experience you want. I compare us to Sephora. If you look behind me, we create all of the engagement tools in the cannabis industry in the retail space. So I'm going to break down what that means depending on why you're here. Dispensary owners, that means no digital headaches. How many people own a dispensary? Looking to own a dispensary? Yikes, nobody's going to be able to get anything around here. Ha, ha, ha. You don't have to raise your hands. Basically what this means, your menu, your product kiosk, your television, your engagement in your store, we can create that for you without you having to think about it. In California, which is supposed to be developed cannabis culture, I've walked into stores where the senior managers and owners are updating their menus daily from their Mac. That is not the experience I want for my customers in a dispensary. Start with us there. Speak up. Oh, I can yell. How loud? Good? All right. Do I have to start all over? I only have 3 minutes. All right, cool. Well, talk to me if you missed all that. All right, that's much louder. Ooh, I can sing. Nonetheless, all right, moving on from dispensaries. Brands. This is the best brand awareness tool you have in cannabis. I will start with plant-touching brands and fringe brands. We are serving 3 million impressions a month in dispensary at the point of sale. As you think about different publications, different social networks that are shutting down cannabis brands across this country, we bring a media network to the point of sale and allow you to spread your wings from a content standpoint, which is a beautiful place to be in cannabis. Next, as you think about non-cannabis touching brands, I use big name brands such as fast food chains, which is the most obvious. Think about the data you can learn about a category that's growing to $23 billion in the next 5 years. It's a beautiful thing. Interesting. All right, so thinking beyond there, basically, if you have a digital headache, you should be talking to us. Our goal is to educate the consumer, to entertain them, and to increase the basket size, which are marketing terms that are in the cutting edge edge of retail for other categories, which cannabis can lead, which is what excited me about Enlighten, which is what brought me from mainstream. I come from a history of Procter & Gamble spending millions of dollars. I say that publicly, intentionally, to break the stigma. I came over here to change media and create 360 marketing plans for all of you. I'm excited to work with you. I'm here, excited to be here. Thank you, CannaGather, for having us. This video has played only to about the 14th second. It hasn't moved since then. Nobody told me. It's my fault it was the wrong format, but that's all. Please talk to us. Look forward. Thank you.
You're a brand manager at P&G? That's awesome. The P&G thing's huge. Don't tell people? Okay, never mind. Well, it's very impressive, and I think signals the shift that cannabis and the industry is becoming much more mainstream, which is always good to hear and see. We have Canna Planners. We have folks from Canna Planners. Will? Canna Planners? Canna Planners will help you with all of your web marketing and WordPress needs. So be sure to check out cannaplanners.com if you have any questions. As you can see, they can help you with design as well. So you can ping me, Josh at CannaGather.com, and if you're looking to build a website, build a WordPress presence, Canna Planners can help. Canopy Boulder. So a representative from Canopy actually flew in from Colorado, but her plane was grounded in Baltimore. She will be flying in for the after party, but Rob from North 6 will be chatting a little bit about what is Canopy Boulder. So thank you, Rob.
Well, let me just tell you guys now, you really missed out. Celia is much, much cooler than me. So I'll do the best that I can to fill in her place. My name is Robert Manesco. I'm the Cannabis Group Director at North 6 Agency, a PR firm. Oh, my bad. How's that sound? So Canopy is a venture capital firm and accelerator for ancillary cannabis businesses. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to start a cannabis technology company or a company that serves the cannabis industry in some way, shape, or form, Canopy is an excellent fit. The company runs a 16-week training program out of Boulder, Colorado that comes with funding, hands-on training, mentors, networks that can help you go out and sell your product, etc. They've launched over 80 companies in the cannabis space and have provided funding to more than 100 at this point. In addition to the accelerator program, they do have a seed stage venture capital program as well as a growth stage once you reach that level. So Canopy has launched applications for its fall class and is accepting applications as we speak. The deadline is coming up relatively shortly, so if you are interested in launching a business with Canopy, please do feel free to find myself after this presentation. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, man. Thank you. You guys hear me? You guys hear me? Cool. Shop, grow, life. Where is Joe? Joe? Oh, there he is. Flying in from out west as well. Thank you so much for making the trip. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Thanks for having me. I did fly in from Colorado. I've been in the cannabis space since 2009 in Colorado. My name is Joe Barnes. I'm the president of Grow Life Hydroponics. We are a publicly traded company all over North America, servicing every cultivator from someone who grows in their closet all the way up to facilities that operate with over 3,000 lights in one room. Danny, thank you for being involved with this. Danny Danko, everyone, he is a legend. We offer plenty of training on our websites as well. So if you get a chance or if you have need any information, some questions answered, check out shopgrowlife.com or in Canada, growlifehydro.ca. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you so much. It's always an honor when folks fly in for CannaGather. I think it really shows the opportunity here in New York, and that's because of all of you. in this room, the companies that are being started or operated on by folks in this room. And thank you again, Joe and Celia, somewhere in the air, for making the commitment to New York and coming in for that. So thank you so much. And kudos to all of you. And on the flip side, we have New York born and raised, Mr. Dan Fung.
Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Fung, and my vape pen business has been around for about 2 years. And I recently invented a new product that I want to discuss today called the Double. This is the first dual 510 thread cartridge battery in existence that you can hit both cartridges simultaneously at the same time. This is entirely designed for you to play and mix whatever 2 strains of cartridges that your 2 favorites and experience them at the same time. So most people have a convention of just a high, not high type of notion of what you do when you consume cannabis. But now I'm offering a new way to allow you to actually do nuances to that high on your own and find what combinations that you enjoy. In September, this is a glimpse at a miniaturized Pelican case that I'm inventing that's going to have cutouts that you can hold 6 vape cartridges inside it, already ready to drop into this battery. So beyond just having a battery, this is like having like a vape mini bar in your back pocket. It's skinny enough to fit in your pocket, and you can stock your library the way you would stock your own bar at home. So I have about 40 units left for sale here. I'm doing a show special for just $50 to anybody at the event here. And I'll give a little thanks to Danny Danko as well, because he's going to do a product review in the next month's issue of High Times. It's going to come out about this product as well. And so I want to thank Danny as well for contributing to that. Thank you for your time, and appreciate everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, these are great for whenever you're in Colorado, California, Washington, D.C., New Jersey very soon, Massachusetts. Definitely not New York State, right, Dan? Our lawyer is not worried, so okay, we're okay. Thanks to some of our other sponsors, 3Win, Eric Newman, as always. Thank you so much from 3Win Corp. Vortex Power Fans for anyone who needs industrial strength ventilation systems, all the way up from Canada. Vortex, created a law firm, as mentioned, the lawyer who is not worried about the previous slide, and Splash. So all of you went to our website, which is run, designed, managed, everything by Splash. So if you're looking to throw an event, particularly at Galvanize, check out Splash to operate that. Just want to give a quick shout out. You probably met a lot of these people already. The CannaGather team. I'm the guy in the top left corner, in case you couldn't tell. And then a couple other folks. You probably noticed the woman in the top right corner. That's Kim. And you probably met some of the people who actually even aren't on this list. Anthony and Frankie over from New Jersey, who've been helping out at the door. So thank you to both of them. Thank you to New Jersey. Thank you to Leo Bridgewater. Thank you to Phil Murphy. The list goes on. But in particular, thanks to everyone on this list up here and everyone else on the CannaGather team. Round of applause. And speaking of the CannaGather team, here's...
Hello. Do you know why I love to come to CannaGather? Because I get to come and hang out with some of the coolest cats in town. And I know in here that everyone is non-judgmental, right? This is an open, safe space that you can come in and not vape inside of Galvanize. You're not allowed to vape here. Also, Galvanize is like our home. So if you get to eat the delicious food, it's so wonderful if you could throw it in the trash receptacle. So thank you guys for that little housekeeping note. Anyway, there's so many interesting things happening in the cannabis community. And I have to say, first and foremost, I am a patient. And that is why I'm here. Hashtag legalize my fucking meds, right? So, but there was some interesting news that came out. For the first time ever, the United Nations is launching an in-depth review of whether marijuana is properly classified under international drug treaties. And so the UN World Health Organization, WHO, announced that CBD, a compound in marijuana that is increasingly used for medical purposes, does not warrant being controlled under global agreements. No fucking shit. But the good news is, guys, that means we're getting somewhere and we're coming together as a community, and it is so important for you guys to show up and be together because they cannot take us all down. And this is what happens when we push the movement. So keep pushing and keep coming to CannaGather because I like hanging out with you guys. Who's ready to go to 287 Hudson afterwards? That's where we go and the real networking happens. We're in a place that's a little more chill. We get free pizzas thanks to Josh making an agreement with them. They're so pro-cannabis. So make sure after you're done here that you get your asses over to 287 Hudson, which is a Dorale. They are very pro-cannabis. Doesn't mean you can smoke inside. So, and that's where we really, the networking, the relationships are built. I can tell you that Josh and I, we met at an event, correct? Ronnie, where are you? We met there too. These are people that I do business with on a regular basis. You will meet the people that make you money. I'm about two things. I'm about feeding my soul in the community and my bank account. And that's the truth.
I help with the first one.
He does. To the news. Good evening, everyone. Gather round. Welcome to the wild world of weed. I'm your plug for news and events. This is Cannabis with Kim B. Let's start with some great news at home. Over the last 12 months, New York has added an impressive 37,000 patients to its medical marijuana program. Reports show that chronic pain is the largest driver for new enrollments, while rush hour subway-induced PTSD is catching up with every delayed train. Hashtag MMJ for MTA. And some more good news out of New York. Governor Cuomo appointed a panel to draft legislation to legalize adult use in New York. Be sure to come back next month and find out what Cuomo and Cynthia Nixon did to win pot lovers' votes. Hashtag Mo Green. Ooh, beer maker Lagunitas swaps out alcohol for cannabis? Heineken's Lagunitas brand is making a new drink with all its alcohol replaced by THC. The no-calorie sparkling water will be resealable and sells for about $8 a can. So get ready to find them in a New York City club near you for about $36 a pop. Hashtag not a cheap date. On Capitol Hill this month, a new bill proposed in Congress would protect federal employees from losing their jobs over smoking pot. The bill would be a positive sign to military members and hopefully encourage less people like Ted Cruz from turning to political work. Hashtag no one likes Ted Cruz. Let's close things out at the White House. The tariffs imposed by President Trump are expected to hit the cannabis industry hard. The price increases stem from rising production costs and the inability to write off expenses like other businesses. So thanks, President Trump. We almost had a month of entirely positive news, but then you had to come along and fuck it up. Hashtag you're fired. So that concludes the news. Thank you so much for coming to CannaGather.
How many people are excited about New Jersey? How many people are actually from New Jersey in the room? All right, we showed up. So if you're not aware of what's happening in New Jersey, last Thursday, August 9th, over 800 applicants showed up in Trenton, New Jersey. There you go, you were there. Were you there? You were there. Yeah, you were there. There was so many people. So we had over 800 applicants come to Trenton, New Jersey to inquire about applying for a license in New Jersey, right? A medical vertical license. So there's 6 licenses that are going to be issued on November 1st. I said this last event, the deadline is August 31st. So if you are dead set on being in the cannabis industry, if you're for real, if you're serious, and you don't want to fly to California right now, you don't want to move to Colorado, you need to spend $2.75. Well, it's 5, right? Well, 5 something, you got to get back. Go to New Jersey. We're having our event on August 21st. We have a legal panel that's going to educate you on IP, raising private funds, right, raising public funds, and also patent law. But we also have a legend coming, which is Wanda James. Do you know who Wanda James is? I saw some no's. Who's Wanda James? Wanda James is the first African-American dispensary owner, I think, in the world, but she won't let me claim that. Definitely Colorado. Definitely the United States, from what I understand. So she's going to be coming educating us about her business, what she's doing in the space, what she's going to be potentially doing in New Jersey. So come out. As Kim said, we do sell out the events. We have an awesome beer garden, so it's a great time. But August 21st, make sure you come out. And we're also going to have a special announcement by the mayor of Trenton. So I'm not going to tell you because you have to show up to find out. All right? So I hope to see you guys in there. And if you're serious about getting into the industry, we're making it happen in New Jersey. Me and that man over there, right there, Leo Bridgewater, come see us in New Jersey. We're making it happen for you guys. All right?
Can you tell me about the mayor of Trenton? No? Okay. Cool. I just want to see. I want to know if I had to show up at the event first. Okay. Apparently I do. It's fine. I'll be there. I'll definitely be there. Last time I've been there for the last 2 events. About 300 people at the last one. So kudos to Ronnie and Leo for that. In New York next month, we will have Derek Peterson, the CEO and founder of TerraTech. It's a vertically integrated company. If you're not familiar with TerraTech, they're publicly traded. Current market cap is around 130 million. So obviously, pretty impressive speaker in terms of his history and what he's built with TerraTech. And I think you should come. I'm a little biased, but I think you should come. You actually can't go to nextevent.cannagather.com yet. I always forget to change that. But if you go to cannagather.com/September 2018, you can get your tickets, early bird, $20, or just go to cannagather.com, and I'm sure you'll find your way. It'll be a great event. But without further ado, you're all here for this one. Mr. Danny Danko is a legend. He's famous. I think sometimes he forgets that and agrees to spend time with me. And for that, I am very, very grateful and happy that you can all be here to listen to the one and only Danny Danko. Thank you so much for coming. Before we get into it, I guess, I know generally who you are, what you've done, and what you've contributed to the industry, but just sort of quick background. Who are you?
All right. I'm Danny Danko. I'm the senior cultivation editor of Hightimes magazine. I've been working there full-time since 2002, so about 17 years full-time, and a bit before that part-time, and been, in the cultivation sphere of things. Also want to mention it's an honor to have Mr. Dana Beal here, someone who's been fighting for cannabis freedom for over 50 years here in New York City. So
thank you, Dana. 1967.
Since 1967, he's been fighting for this place.
Wow.
So
thank you, Dana, as always.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be, politically active or anything like that if I hadn't moved to New York City in the mid-'90s and gotten involved with the Million Marijuana March and all of the events that Dana put together at that time when there was no medical marijuana and no legal rights at all. So kudos to him for that.
As always, thank you, Dana.
So, yeah, so that's right. So long story short, I was a cannabis grower for many years, involved in sort of the underground, and then moved here and sort of looked for a way to get kind of out of the underground, and there wasn't really a lot of opportunities, especially on the East Coast. But I worked with Headcase, which was a hemp-based clothing company, and then Hightimes. And so obviously seen a lot of changes in the last bunch of years, but it's been exciting, and cultivation has been my specialty because I think people don't really give it credit for being the political act that it is, but growing, overgrowing the government is a real thing, and it's actually what's happened. I mean, we've really just the quality of cannabis has improved, and the quantity of cannabis has increased, and all of that has just gotten to the level where even the people who are opposed to cannabis know that they're done and it's over for them.
I guess going all the way back, like how did you initially end up in the cannabis industry, even the underground scene?
You know, I mean, I think like most people, from the first few times I tried it, I kind of fell in love. It became something that became for me. And so at that time, it was very sort of personal and sort of, you know, even selfish in a way. I wanted more high quality cannabis. And so I knew once I saw the first grow room that I saw, and I realized, wait, you know, at the time I thought, you know, you needed acres and acres, you know, in South America to grow cannabis. I didn't think this was something you could do in a closet or a small, you know, 4x4 space. But once I saw that you could, and actually create a better product, and that you knew what went into it, what the strain was, whether there was pesticides used, whether it was fed properly, all of those things, and the quality was just so much better, and for pennies to the dollar. So I fell in love, and then I really wanted to dedicate my life to it, and I knew at that time that you know, that if you did that, there was a price to pay. At that time, it was you know, jail and a lot of different things that you were facing, you know, that people are still facing today, but much more so at that time. And so little by little, you know, I needed a cover job, and then the cover job became my real job. And now I visit grow rooms all around the world. I see gardens, you know, and we've watched them grow from, you know, we thought 10 lights was a big space in the 90s, and now I'm seeing, you know, multiple acre outdoor and indoor spaces. So it's been pretty amazing to see the progression.
And so now you, in your sort of perch at hightimes, see pretty much everything at this point. Can you walk us through what goes on a day-to-day, week-to-week, and what your role and responsibility is?
Yeah, I mean, in the cultivation department, you know, I just want people to learn how to grow better cannabis. So you know, we try to do step-by-step and how-to articles. We try to find pictures that show people, you know, what it should look like, and then take people through the various aspects of it. Because there's a lot of fear, obviously, and there's a lot of trepidation of, you know, this corporate cannabis. It's all taking over, and Monsanto and Marlboro and all of that. But if you grow your own, you don't have to worry about any of that. And I think that, you know, we have a unique industry, and we are in a unique position in our industry to create it from scratch. And I think, you know, all of those corporate interests need us more than we need them. And we can create an industry that has co-ops and people that get together and grow for a group of people, equity for people who have been wrongly, you know, affected by the war on cannabis and all of these things. This is all things we can create as an industry, and that we don't need the corporate companies to do. And the one way we can control our fate is cultivation, right? I mean, the plant has to be grown by someone, and I think we as consumers are going to demand the product that we want to buy. I'm not going to buy cannabis from Monsanto or Marlboro personally. So I know there's going to be something out there for me, and I think there's a lot more people like me out there.
I think so too, and I think that there's some other people that seem to agree with you. Before we jump into the presentation, were there any quick questions for Danny on those topics that he mentioned? Cool. Do you want to dive right in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically, this is a truncated version of a longer panel that I do for people, and it's based on the fact that there's plant limits in most of these laws these days, 6 plants, 8 plants, whatever it might be. But there's no size limits usually to what you can grow. So you can grow the plants a little bigger and get a larger yield with a little bit of a longer vegetative time. So the presentation itself is called More Root, More Fruit, Growing Medical Marijuana in the Era of Plant Limits. So, and even recreational marijuana these days, still when they have the grow your own in there, they always sort of limit the amount of plants you can grow. To that end, I've also written this book, which I'll be signing afterwards, which is a beginner grow book. It's called Cannabis, a Beginner's Guide to Growing Marijuana. And it's really an entry-level book for people to get started. It's got a little bit on everything that you need to know rather than a big sort of textbook like many of the other books that are out there. You need that information as well, but this is, I think, for people who just want to get started with a few plants. And I think if you're going to be in the cannabis business, you should touch the plant once in a while, and you should know how it grows and how it's produced and where it comes from. So the presentation itself is more root, more fruit, and that basically goes to the fact that you need a larger container for your roots to grow bigger plants, and you need a longer vegetative time to grow bigger plants. But if you do those two things, you can actually harvest a good amount from a small amount of plants. So getting started, obviously, the first question is, why grow your own? We talked about this a little bit as well, but really, you know what went into it, you know what strain it is, especially for medical users. This is particularly important if you're looking for CBD-rich variety or a particular effect that you're trying to get. You want that consistency from the strain that you grow. So whatever it is that you grow, you want to be able to keep growing it over and over. So location is important. Now, the big one is indoors versus outdoor. I think, greenhouse is really ultimately where things are going to go business-wise because of the abundant sunshine that you can get, and it's sort of the best of both worlds in some ways. You have the free sun, but you also have the ability to control the environment, so you don't have the wind and dust and rain that you have with full outdoor. But most people are going to grow indoors in a small space, 4x4 grow tent or a grow box that they purchase, or a closet. Some people just have an extra room or a closet that they want to grow in. You just want to make sure that the space is sealed from light so that light's not getting out. Go inside the space, turn the light off, and make sure that the light's not getting in as well, because you want a light, tight space. But location is very important. I mean, that could be the difference between success and not finishing. You also want to get the right equipment. There's tons of equipment out there. There's only certain stuff that you really absolutely need. If you're growing indoors, you need lighting, and I recommend grow lighting, HID lighting, which is high pressure sodium or metal halide lighting. There's also LED lights out there that the quality is improving greatly on LEDs, and they use less energy and produce less heat. So a lot of these smaller indoor kind of micro grow spaces will utilize LEDs or fluorescent lighting, compact fluorescence as well, just to reduce heat. But if you're going to grow for production purposes, I still recommend high pressure sodium or metal halide. And there's even ceramic metal halide lighting that's out now that's more efficient than some of the older high intensity discharge lighting. You also need ventilation. You want to bring fresh, cool air in, filtered air, so you're not bringing in insects or anything like that. You bring that in low, and you bring the spent hot air out high because heat rises. So any air that you're expelling has to go out through charcoal filtration that takes the odor out of that air, and it also slows down the fan. So you want to get a fan that's rated for charcoal filtration, and you want that fan constantly sucking that hot spent air out through the charcoal to clean the air. Then you need a ventilation in the room as well. So circulation fans, simple oscillating fans are good just to keep everything moving around. What's happening is the plant is using up the CO2 in the air and converting it to oxygen as it's taking in light, and it's converting all of that and making life, making cells and plant life out of the light and the water and the food and all of those things. So the CO2 has to be at leaf surface. So when the leaves are moving around, the CO2 is moving, but when the leaves are stagnant and not moving, they use up all that CO2 very quickly, and they just stop growing. The environment of your space is very important. So heat builds up very quickly. Air is used up. The CO2 in the air is used up very quickly. So you want that air moving. You want the temperature never really to go above 80 degrees. You don't want it really to go below 60, but that's not usually an issue. And you want humidity levels between 40 to 60% or so throughout growth. At different times, it can be higher early on and lower as you approach harvest. But it is very important to control that. So that's something you need as well, is a thermometer and a hydrometer to measure the humidity in the air and to measure the temperature of the air. You also need a grow medium. The easiest and most simplest, most forgiving thing is just the soil mix in a 5-gallon bucket. Those buckets you get at Home Depot are just a couple of bucks. They're 5 gallons. Just cut holes in the bottom so that the water will flow through and you don't sit in stagnant water. But those are very forgiving and hold a good amount of soil, and you can water those pretty easily. All right, next thing is you're going to need to know between seeds versus clones. Everything's going to start from seeds. You want to get great genetics. This is always an issue. We have advertisements in High Times for this, but people have a lot of confusion as to how to get seeds. You just got to order them to a place, hopefully, where you're not growing. And you want high-quality genetics, and you want to pop those seeds. People use the wet paper towel method. I prefer to just put the seeds right into the growing medium and keep that medium moist. I think that way you get the stronger, healthier taproot. You don't have to deal with any sort of transplant shock. Then there's clones. You grow from clones if you want to grow the same plant over and over, if you want a level canopy. But people growing at home for personal use don't necessarily really need to worry too much about cloning unless you have a perpetual sort of system where you're cloning, you're rooting those clones, you're vegging those plants, and you're flowering them constantly over and over, in which case you'll need a separate area for your mother plants and your clones, and that's the vegetative space. You're also going to have to be able to determine plant sex, which is figuring out if the plant is male or female. There are seeds you can buy that are feminized seeds, autoflower seeds and things like that, but most seeds that you buy are either going to be male or female. When they get to a certain age is when you can start to tell by their pre-flowers, and then once the flowers start forming, male flowers will look like these on the left. They'll start off looking like little spikes sticking out, and then they'll start looking like tiny little bunches of bananas that will then open up and release their pollen. Whereas the female plants will first show a white hair coming out of the node, which is where the leaf meets the stem. You'll see a white hair coming out of like a teardrop-shaped calyx. And that's a good indication that your plant is female. But there's also hermaphrodite plants that can show both sexes, and you have to look out for that because you certainly don't want any male plants or hermaphrodite plants releasing pollen in your room, because you'll get a room full of seeds, and what we're after is seedless pots, so it can't have male pollen in it. So if you do determine that your plants are male, kill them immediately. Don't let them get to the point where they can actually pollinate the females. Again, if you're growing plants, you want to sort of have it perpetually growing. So you start your clones and you get them into the vegetative stage. This is the stage where you have at least 18 hours of light per day. You could do 20 hours of light per day. I don't recommend 24 hours, meaning the light constantly be on during the vegging stage. I think that's too much. A plant needs the rest time. So you can go 20 hours on, 4 hours off if you'd like. Pretty standard is 18 and 6, but that keeps the plant from flowering. It'll stay in its vegetative stage, meaning it's growing leaves and branches, and it's building the foundation upon which it's going to make flowers in the flowering stage. When it gets to a certain height or age is when you decide to start the flowering stage by changing the light cycle. So you have the timer on your lights that has 18:6. Now you change it to 12:12. So it's on for 12 hours and off for 12 hours, and that starts the flowering cycle. Now, it's very important not to interrupt the dark cycle with any light. You don't want those 12 hours interrupted at all because it shocks the plant and makes it think it's going back into the vegetative stage. It can cause all kinds of problems. So make sure that dark stays dark, and make sure you go 12 and 12 Uh, Interrupting the light, not as big of a deal, but definitely don't interrupt that darkness at all. And make sure that you go 12-12. You won't see flowers for the first week, sometimes even 2 weeks, depending on the strain. The plant will continue to stretch a bit during that time, but it is transitioning into the flowering stage. And so at 2 weeks old, they look about like this, and they're just starting to form different branches and leaves. And at 4 weeks old, they're filling out the space a bit more. This is the time when you can do topping if you want to start making them branch out a little more. You can do different things to make them branch out at this stage. Now, I recommend basically about a gallon of grow medium for every week of vegging time. So if you're using that 5-gallon bucket, you can veg for about 4 or 5 weeks, so a month to 5 weeks of vegetative time. And then you start the flowering, and the plant will, like I said, continue to grow in its vegging stage for a little while during that week, and then you'll start seeing little white puff balls start to form, and that is the plant beginning to form flowers. This is like the 2nd to the 6th week of flowering where you can really start using the flowering nutrients, because you have different nutrients during the vegging stage that are more nitrogen heavy. And then in the flowering stage, it's more phosphorus and potassium heavy. So that's when you can give it the flowering nutrients, and you keep that at 12-12 for, depending on the plant. Most plants average about 8 weeks, 9 weeks of flowering. So that's about 2 months. So the whole cycle should take you about 3 months. A month of veg time, 2 months of flowering. Again, there's sativa plants that take a little longer, indicas that might take a little shorter, but that's about an average. Foliar feeding you can do during the vegging stage. That's like misting the plant, because when you're feeding it by mixing the nutrients into the water, testing the pH of that nutrient solution, and then adding it to the plant, hand feeding it to the plant. So you want it to go through a wet-dry cycle. You don't want it to be constantly wet. You want it to dry out, and then you water. So it doesn't like to be wet all the time. So you have to remember to make sure to let it dry out. A good way to test this is to pick up the buckets, because when they're wet and waterlogged, they'll be much heavier than when they're dry and need water. And certainly if you see any drooping or anything like that, you want to add water or nutrient solution at that time.
How are you guys liking this?
So
far, so good? Yeah. Time doesn't matter. Just keep going.
So as you're approaching harvest, you want to start dialing down the nutrients, because you're basically at the point where you want to start flushing out some of the nutrients and cleaning the flowers so that they don't burn harshly. Because if there's too much salts and metals built up in the cells of the flower, it'll burn like a piece of charcoal. But if you start this flushing period about 2 weeks before you harvest, you just start using plain water, you can leach out a lot of that excess minerals that you've added, and you'll start seeing these fall colors like you'll see in this picture here. And that's nothing to be worried about. That's actually a good thing. That means that the chlorophyll, which gives it that green, grassy taste, is leaching out of there. And now you're getting to the point where there's very little residual salts built up in your flowers, which is a good thing. You want to determine when to harvest. It's not a matter of looking at red hairs or anything really that you can even see without magnification. You want to get some kind of a loupe or a magnifying glass and really get in there and look at the actual glandular trichome, which is the essential oil-producing gland where the THC, the CBD, and all of the essential oils are there within that gland. And it looks like basically like a tiny clear mushroom, and this is what people call crystals or a lot of different things, keef. But when you look at the flower up close, you'll see tons of these little glands, and they basically have a stalk and a head. And as they start forming during the flowering period, the stalk will grow and the head will start becoming more bulbous, and it's clear at first. That contains all the essential oil within that gland head. That's what, when you're making hash or any kind of concentrates, that's what you're trying to strip out of there. And that's really what you're after when you're growing cannabis is that essential oil. So at first that gland head will be clear, and as the plant is approaching ripeness, it'll start to go cloudy. So when you're looking at it up close, it looks like a clear marble, and then inside it'll start to get cloudy, and then it'll get milky, white, and cloudy in the middle, and then eventually it'll start to turn amber, and that means it's kind of going past its prime. So you want to harvest when the majority of those gland heads are milky white. They've gone from clear to milky, but they haven't all gone to amber. That's the perfect time to harvest. And again, it's like taking a steak off the grill. It's going to keep aging after you've cut it down a little bit as well. And some of those gland heads that were milky will start turning amber over the course of the drying and curing period. So if you want it a little more lethargic, take it down a little later. If you want it to be a little more upbeat, take it down a little early. And once those glands are milky and you've determined that it's time to harvest, basically you cut the plant off at the base and trim. Different people have different beliefs on wet trim versus dry trim. I've come around to the idea of hanging the plant dry and trimming it after it's dry. I think you're going to get a better product that way. It's much harder to do that if you're growing in bulk in these big warehouse grows and things like that. It just doesn't make sense logistically. But if you're growing for your own personal use, I think it makes perfect sense to let the plant dry slowly, hanging dry in a room where there's no light, because light degrades THC. So you want a cool, dark room with decent air circulation, but no fans blowing directly onto those drying branches. They'll dry out too quickly. You want that process to take about 7 to 10 days when they go from, you're pulling a lot of water out of that plant initially. Almost 75% of the weight of the plant you're pulling out in water. So you want to have good air circulation, pulling that wet air out of that room. Once it's dry and it feels like it's bone dry and the branches sort of snap instead of bending, now you're ready to trim that leaf off, trim the buds off, and put them into glass jars for curing. This is another very important part of the process that most people don't do. And most commercial cannabis that you purchase is not cured. It's dried and then packaged and then sold. But the curing process actually pulls the last of that excess moisture out, and it sweats it from the middle of the bud out to the outside of it. So imagine that you've put what feels like a popcorn dry bud into a glass jar and sealed it. An hour or two later, you can go back and open that, and the bud will feel moist again. That's that moisture from the middle of that flower redistributing itself inside the jar and making the outside of that flower moist. So you're slowly drawing the moisture out of the middle of the bud, and so you can open that jar once or twice a day. We call that burping the jar, and work your way up. It's always easier to add a little more and bump it up. If you see things start to go a little yellow, you can always bump it up. But if you see burnt leaf tips, which you'll see constantly, even in the pages of High Times and everywhere else, that's a sure sign that the plant's been overfed. And it starts with burnt tips, but it quickly works its way down those leaves. And once you've overfed, it's very difficult to get all that excess plant nutrients, those salts and minerals out of that plant and out of that soil. So err on the side of caution and work up. Overfeeding and overwatering are the two biggest mistakes people make. The other third biggest, I would say, is not dealing with pest infestation or mold, like a powdery mildew issue. Seeing that it's there and then not acting or taking steps immediately to deal with it, because insects, all those things multiply very quickly and become a huge problem and can actually destroy your whole business plan or project or whatever it might be. So, overfeeding, overwatering, and inattentiveness, not keeping your grow room clean. I can't tell you how many places I've visited where there's dead leaves on the floor, dead leaves on the plant, puddles of water in the grow room. These are all invitations for insects to come. Yellow leaves on the plant, you got to take those off. The reason that the sticky traps are yellow is because that's the insects are attracted to the color of decay. So they go to those yellow sticky traps or they go to those yellow leaves. And if they go to the yellow leaf, they set up shop, and that becomes, their home base from which to attack the rest of your plant. So keep your plants free of dead leaves, of dying leaves. Keep the grow room floor clean, keep the walls clean. All these things are very important, and you'll be a lot more lucky that way too, because people say, oh, I got unlucky, I got mites, or I got white flies, or I got this, or I got. It's not always unlucky. Sometimes a little due diligence and a little preventative work can save you in the end and make you much more lucky. That's pretty much the truncated version, I would say. As far as, once you've harvested and you've dried and you've cured, you can keep your cannabis sealed in a glass jar in a cool, dark place. I don't recommend the fridge or the freezer. There's just too many weird moisture fluctuations and temperature issues and light issues and stuff. Just a cool, dark place is great. If you want to keep those leaves that you trimmed off and make concentrates, make edibles with that, those are all wonderful things that you can do. I don't recommend, that people start messing around with like solvents and things like that. Leave that to the experts. There's lots of ways to make concentrates that aren't dangerous, including ice water extraction, and just dry sift as well, and rosin pressing, which is really popular these days, where they just squeeze the bud like a olive. When they make olive oil, they just squeeze the oil right out of the bud, which is pretty exciting. So I will take some questions if people have questions. If not, I could.
That was awesome. Was that sort of mesmerized? Right? It was sort of like.
I mean,
it was amazing. That was awesome. Question right there. How many days for curing and grow medium?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the drying process, like I said, should be, 6 to 10 days or so. They just improve on it year after year, and they have like a loam, like a chocolate cake that you could just step into, and it's just like this soft, living soil. And I think that's really, if you're growing outdoors, that's really, what you're after is something that you really don't have to feed a lot of nutrients to, and it just improves year after year by adding organic material like compost and using things like aerated compost tea. It's a little tougher to pull off indoors, and again, insects can come in with mediums, so it is tough. And one of the reasons people grow hydroponically is to avoid insects, because organic mediums and organic nutrients tend to be like the stinkier things that actually do attract pests.
So it's 9 o'clock, and I know many of you need to leave, so if you do need to leave, then feel free to do so. We'll take 2 more questions, and then Danny's also going to be at the after party, which, as mentioned, is literally across the street, and as also mentioned and promised, free pizza. So it's at Adoro Lay. So if we don't get to your question, we'll take 2 now. Then Danny has offered generously to join us. Right there.
Yeah, the book is a beginner guide, so it has everything from germination to mother plants and cloning, determining sex, vegetative stage, flowering stage, harvesting, all of it's there. It really depends on your, there's different growing systems that work perfectly for different people. If you want something automated, there's a lot of great things out there that are automated. But again, like I said, with hydroponics, there's just a lot more to monitor. So Soil, it's more forgiving. Like I said, if there's a problem, you have a few hours to fix it. You could have a day or two to fix it. With hydroponics, you have a matter of minutes to fix a problem. So you should be monitoring everything much more carefully. With soil, you can hand water every couple of days and that sort of thing. It's a little less stressful. But there's lots of different automated systems, and there's some that do everything for you in many ways.
And before we go to the last question, I just want to remind you guys, you can pick up an autographed copy of Danny's book right here, right after this. So one last question.
Favorite strain? For me, is strawberry cough.